Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 82nd Rome Total War Brotherhood battle that I put onto YouTube. The team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Conan, who has bought the Rome Julii faction, and as you will know by now, he's the co-founder of the Brotherhood. And then we have Brotherhood member Talos, who has bought the Rome Brutii faction. Then we have myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. And then we have Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, who has also bought the Rome Julii faction. So there's our team for today, full of great Brotherhood players there, and with lots of experience. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at one of Conan's armies here. He tends to bring different armies to different battles, and here you can see in this particular battle he's bought an army where he's only bought 10 infantry. He's got 10 infantry, 5 Praetorian cavalry and a cav general, but he has also bought 4 archer units. Now a lot of players who play 31k might think that 4 archer units is a lot to bring to the 31k battlefield, but bearing in mind that we're facing a Seleucid enemy army. As you know, the Seleucid pikemen are susceptible to archer fire, so that's my guess is why Conan's bought those 4 archers, so he'll be able to kill a lot of the Seleucid pikemen before we actually get into combat. So it'll be interesting to see how this army does. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a quick look at Steve Longshanks' army here. As you can see, he's bought 5 cavalry, and I just thought to look at his formation there. It's a very unusual formation. As you can see, it's quite a thick formation there, but if you look at it, it's a very good defensive formation, and you can peel units off from the back for attack. So it's quite a good formation and unusual. And here is our opposition for today, and this is the enemy team, and we start off with RTW player RT2, who has bought the Rome Scipii faction. Then we have Iberos Tutmosil, who has bought the Seleucid faction. Then we have Heaven Kornovi, who has bought the SBQR faction, and Brotherhood member Turbo, who has bought the SBQR faction. He's called himself Dimitri in this battle, but his name is actually Turbo, as I'm sure a lot of you will know. As you can see, Turbo's got a reputation for being a very aggressive RTW player. As you can see right from the beginning there, he's charging his cavalry through just to see if he can see any opportunity to maybe hit an enemy infantry unit in the flank or something like that. But if you notice that Talos' archers started to fire at him and forced his cavalry to retreat, so that was a nice counter move there by Talos. So as you can see, there's the army squaring up to moving into position there at the very, very early stage of the battle. We're kind of just forming up at the moment. And there's the 2 cavalry generals, the 2 opposing cavalry generals there. Unusual these days to bring cavalry generals. It's usually urban cohort generals of 31k. But it's nice to see a bit of old school cav generals there. At this early stage of the battle, I just thought I'd give you a panoramic view of what's actually happening here. As you can see, we've kind of our team's kind of formed up into kind of, if you like, a defensive formation, if you like, there against the enemy team. And over on our left, you can see Conan's Julii faction there, and over here on our right, we can see that the enemy Scipii army is moving towards our Julii ally there. As you can see here, the enemy SBQR infantry is aggressively attacking already. And over on our left flank here, you can see that Conan is facing SBQR infantry and cavalry and Seleucid tank cavalry, as we call them, the tanks of the ancient world there. And as you can see, Conan's holding very well there on our left flank there. And Steve Longshanks has sent over some cavalry to help Conan there on the left flank. But Conan seems to be holding quite comfortably there at the moment there. And bearing in mind the game hasn't been going very long, you can see that there's been a lot of fighting on this left flank in a very early stage of the battle. So it goes to show how aggressive the enemy team have been. Here you can see the enemy Seleucid, pikemen, and the enemy SPQR infantry are attacking Talos' Brutii infantry there. If you notice, I've got my infantry right up behind him to give him support there. Meanwhile, here on our right flank, you can see Steve Longshanks' Julii army facing the enemy Scipii. If you can see here, I've moved like a mini army of 3 urbans with my Eagle unit behind them there over to our left flank to help Conan there to counter enemy attacks there. If you notice, I put the Eagle unit with those 3 urban units, and I always do that because it gives the urban units morale bonus there. Of course, as some of you may not know, that Eagle units actually give nearby friendly troops a morale bonus. So that's why I've got that mini army there, just to help Conan if he needs it on the left flank. If you notice there, the Seleucid heavy cavalry have just charged into some of Conan's infantry there, and it wouldn't surprise me if that charge routed a couple of the Julii infantry, and I think it has routed one of their units there. Meanwhile, over on our right flank, if you notice, myself and Steve Longshanks are charging our cavalry into the enemy Scipii infantry here. And my guess is, with the impact of all that cavalry, plus our infantry fighting those Scipii infantry, it wouldn't surprise me if a few of those Scip infantry start to rout now. And as you can see, some of their units are starting to rout. That was a really good combination hit from Steve Longshanks and myself with our cavalry. Plus his infantry's in there fighting as well. And you can see Talos charging his cavalry in there. If you notice that Steve Longshanks and myself have both got the maximum out of our cav charge bonus, so we're now pulling our cavalry back. No point in leaving them in there fighting infantry. Pull them back with a view to charging again. Bearing in mind the impact of the cavalry hit we delivered onto that enemy Scipii infantry there, they've done well to still have some units left there. As you can see, I'm charging my cavalry in again. But if you notice, just before I made the impact there, I decided to stop. And the reason for that is, what I'm thinking is, instead of actually going head on into their infantry, I'm going to pull my cavalry out to the right and make it a bit easier for myself. Instead of smashing straight into the front of their fighting infantry, if I take it round the flank like that, and now bang, charge it straight in, aim for their enemy general from the rear and flank. If I kill the enemy general, their morale will drop, and the chances are most of their infantry units will rout. Let's see what happens here. I'm aiming for their general, bang, hit their general, managed to kill him. And did you notice that all the Scipii, remaining Scipii units started to rout them? That was because their general got killed and their morale dropped, and they were already engaged and probably battle damaged, so it routed them. Meanwhile, over on our left flank here, you can see there's a massive tussle going on here. If you notice that Conan's Julii infantry there that is fighting, if you notice, there's a couple of units started to rout there. It looks like a real cavalry battle here on the left flank. If you notice that Talos has sent cavalry over there to help Conan. So on the left flank it's looking touch and go really, but over on the right flank we've managed to actually rout the enemy Scipii army that was there. So you notice Steve Longshanks now is bringing his units around the flank in a very aggressive attack on the Seleucid pikemen there. Now if you notice there, he's actually thrown some cavalry units into waiting pikemen, and he would have lost a few cavalry there. As a lot of you know, a lot of new players watching this, you never charge your cavalry into pikemen that are set waiting for you.
Our ally has been slain. Now we will see if his men can hold.
And there's a panoramic view of how the battle's looking so far at the moment. If you notice at the back, I've got my cavalry units. What I'm doing there is I'm chasing down archer units at the back that have been a real nuisance, peppering our army with arrows there. So I'm trying to kill them off before I come back to the battlefield. If you notice there, Steve Longshank's infantry are attacking really well against the Seleucid pikemen. Right, now I'm just going to pause the battle here for us to take stock of what's happening. I'm going to go ask you a question in a minute. Both, I think, a question for new players and experienced players as well. As you can see, at this stage of the battle, Steve Longshanks and myself are kind of pinning and attacking the what's left of the Seleucid infantry there. Meanwhile, over in the centre and left flank, there's still some Seleucid units left over on the left and centre there, and a few SBQR infantry left as well. So that's the general overall picture of the battlefield at this time. As you can see, I've got my mini army there, facing the enemy and ready to move when I want them to. But the question I've got to ask you is here, if you notice, I've got my 6 cavalry units out there. Okay, they're all ready to charge. Now when you look at the overall battlefield, where would you charge that cavalry? Would you charge it up there onto those SBQR infantry? Would you charge them headlong into those waiting pikes? Where would you charge that cavalry? Where do you think the best place to charge that cavalry was? Too many pikes down this end? If I charge them in there, I'd probably get killed by those pikes. But if you were me in this position, where would you charge those cavalry? Interesting, isn't it? Just trying to give you an overall picture of the whole battlefield here, so you could see where you would charge your cavalry in. Let's see what happens. Now, as you can see here, Steve's pressing his attack. But if you notice, there's a gap between the pikes. Can you see there's a gap between the 2 pike units? I'm going to charge my cavalry in there and bang, hoping to rout those pike units before they can turn on me, before they can turn around. Bang! You notice how my cavalry just charged in there really fast, and before those pike units could turn round with their pikes, I managed to rout them. Now that was taking a chance, because if they'd have turned round a bit quicker, I could have lost a hell of a lot of my cavalry there against those pikemen. But because the attack was so fast and maybe unexpected, it routed those pikemen. So that was a good hit there by those cavalry. As you can see now, the remainder of the enemy army now are routing, and I think they've kind of admitted defeat.
Worthy of Roman arms.
So that was a great battle there. Just like to say, really well played to everybody in the game, well played to the other team too. If you notice, one of the other team have got a very, very small kill count for a 31k battle, and if you notice that player was on the right flank, that was the one we actually, Steve Longshanks and myself, smashed with our cavalry and attacked with our infantry as well, so he didn't really have time to inflict a lot of casualties onto us, so that's why he's got a very small kill count there. I'd like to say really well played to my team, the team I was in. There was some great cover moves there, some great team support, and really good tactics from our team, and really well played to the other team. A lot of aggressive attacking moves going on there, and as I've said before, it's always good to be an attacking player because you keep the enemy on the back foot. So really well played to the other team, and just like to say, it was a great game to be in. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and hope to see you soon, and bye for now.